So I wasn't sure what to get my friend Corinna for Christmas this year. But two things I do know are how to draw cute characters and how to be productive. So here's what I came up with. So me and her trade gifts a lot throughout the year, kind of at random intervals. I think that's her love language, if you've read about those. And usually we give each other nerd merch. One year I made a cool staff for her fantasy Uraraka cosplay since we were going to Colossal Con in Sandusky. I went as Amajiki that year. And also maybe Yunbum from Killing Stalking. Don't tell anyone. And she's also bought me the coolest JoJo shirt, which I wore in last week's video, my top 50 gifts, as well as a little Deku pillow before that. So this year I wanted to do something a little more personal. I'm starting my very first bullet journal this year, and I asked if she wanted one too, and she said sure. I don't know whether that was just to placate me and get me to shut up, or if she was genuinely interested. Either way, here we are, and I ran with it. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I chose for the cover later. For the first inside page, I decided to go with big bubble numbers of the representing year, and at the bottom I drew Tamaki Yamajiki from My Hero Academia with his head against the 2, saying, "Thank God 2020 is over." I think we all feel that way a bit, to be honest. I figure he belongs on the first page because in some odd way we became friends through this character. I was an intern at the place where she works, and I overheard her talking to a coworker about a fanfiction she was reading online. And I kept quiet for a while, slowly beginning to realize that the story in question sounded hauntingly familiar. Finally, I said I was a fan of the character too, and asked her to show me which fanfic it was. And when she did, I finally had to break the news to her that I was the one that wrote it. So she got really excited about it, and I was just floored, to be honest. The internet is one thing, but I never thought I'd find someone in real life who was a fan of my work. Especially since all I write is indulgent rubbish. Eventually we agreed to hang out on the weekend since my preceptor Gary was giving us the side eye for getting chatty on the production line. But yeah, that's how we became friends. So next I actually skipped to the third page because I was going to use metallic watercolors and black ink, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't ruin the front page after the fact, so I could place things over it if I did ruin it. So for the key, I just went with my Gansai Tombi Starry Color set, which I'm growing a very strong attachment to, and left the little symbols in pencil just in case she wants to change them. For the fourth page, I just made an index. I figured if I split it down the middle, she could just write small and it wouldn't waste 2 or 3 pages on it. I personally would probably only use the index to flip through the first spreads or month to month, so I wouldn't need a great big 3-page long one like some of the pre-made journals give you. Now back to the first spread. For the second page, I wanted to make it simple and just put her name as well as a bunch of kawaii red pandas. We went to the Cincinnati Zoo together and she told me that's her favorite animal. And we had ice cream and spent a super long time watching the red pandas be adorable. If I remember correctly, we even dubbed them over pretending the animals were talking to each other. Shut up, I'm not cute. I should note that I got these ideas from stickers on Etsy. They're not my own design, but I tried to change their aesthetic a tiny bit to match my style. They didn't turn out great, but I do really like the one doing yoga. After that is the future log. I split the page into thirds, both ways to fit 9 months on the left and 3 on the right. The boxes are small, but I left space for quick notes, and I figured she can just use a highlighter for days she works, or maybe a different color one to note birthdays and events and such. On the right side of the page, I added Ryo Kurikiba from Food Wars. I guess we just like food shows a lot. Anime and baking is just kind of our thing. Oh crap, I'm realizing now as I do the commentary that I was going to draw a Great British Baking Show apron on him, and I totally spaced on the idea. Ah, bummer, that would have been cute. Ah well, but anyway. Here on this spread, I figured Alice made some floating macarons very scientifically, and Kurokiba is just fascinated by them. I'm realizing he doesn't really look that much like him. In this sketch, he looks more like Yui Shigami from Love is War or Amajiki. I mean, the hair is similar to begin with, but I messed up his eye shape, I think. My original idea was to draw my wedding cake instead of macarons because the summer before I got married, she came over and we tried to bake the entire practice cake in one day. My little townhouse kitchen was an absolute disaster. And what's worse is the cake was not good. The second attempt was great, but the first was horrid, and we just couldn't get the edible lace right. It would just dry out and crumble to dust. Me and my mom did the final cake together, and it turned out wonderful, I think. I got so many compliments on it, but if I could just go back and do it again, I would pay somebody. It was not worth that much effort the day before you walk down the aisle. But I digress. The reason I didn't draw the cake was because I didn't want to make it look like she was getting married in this spread, so I stuck with the macarons. The next page I was torn on. If it were my journal, I'd probably put a YouTube idea section or a books to read for the year section, maybe things I'd want to save money for, but I was unsure what she would want to keep track of throughout the year, so I just ended up settling on a goals, ideas, and brain dump section. It's pretty vague and she can put whatever she wants in there. I used a set of coffee-themed washi tape because I had no idea what else to do. At last, I reached the month of January. Here I did a simple Haikyuu volleyball design since that's one of her favorite anime. I personally didn't make it very far, but she likes it. I was gonna draw Iwazumi, her favorite character from it, but I kind of lost some steam and ended up moving on to the next spread. Here's where the actual productivity finally comes into play. We were talking about how to keep her budget on track, so the first spread after the month picture is a budget tracker. I have bills on the left side of the page and the individual transactions on the right. And on the right page, I crafted an empty habit tracker so she can add whatever she wants, be that a daily workout routine, a no spending goal, or what have you. These two are kind of plain, but I was wearing out artistically after doing this all in about 2 days, and I knew I had cute weekly spreads coming up to make up for it. Speaking of which, my first January weekly spread is of a young Tamaki Amajiki from My Hero Academia on a page with one of his favorite things, butterflies. I made them blue morphos because they are my favorite type of butterfly. Truth time. I am obsessed with butterflies. Every year I try to make it to the Crone Conservatory in Cincinnati and go to their butterfly show. I drag all of my friends there whether they like butterflies or not. I did discover while doing this page that a lot of these washi tapes are too slippery to write on. The ink just slides off, so it did smudge quite a bit, but it's not terribly noticeable. Okay, I have to admit, I think this spread is adorable. I'm almost certainly going to put a similar weekly spread in my bullet journal because I'm jealous of it. I won't lie to you. Now on to the next page. This is where things got interesting.
Guys, I accidentally deleted the files on my camera before I was able to put them onto the computer. I'm having a miniature meltdown here, I should let you know. I got a recovery software and I pray it works because I just deleted half of the bullet journal videos I've spent days working on. Please let it work.
So that happened, and yes, I was able to recover the files. However, I was not about to spend that kind of money to do so when I could just show you the finished product. So here's the footage I did have, followed by the final product. The next two spreads are Little Bakugo Explosions and Little Mirio Sunshines. On the left, Bakugo is saying, "Die tasks!" and Mirio has a message of encouragement saying to keep up the good work. These things tie into their characters, with Bakugo's explosions being his quirk and Mirio being compared to sunshine by his best friend Tamaki, but I'm sure you all know this if you are weeb trash like me. During this one, I was heartbroken to discover that the crossbones and the orange outlines bled through to my pretty little butterfly spread. So alcohol markers are a big no for this budget bullet journal. So the last week is a Todoroki and Dabi Ice and Fire spread. I mean, why did I put these two characters next to each other? Absolutely no reason whatsoever. There's no connection between these two. Rosebud was not the name of the sled. People don't die if they are killed. Nothing has to do with anything else, so shut up about it. So on Shoto's side, I did little snowflake icons, and with Dabi, I did little bonfire ones in reference to the season where they battled in the forest. I thought about putting Smokey the Bear on the bottom to be funny, but it didn't really fit with the theme enough. So as you can see, I was trying to put some spacing variety into my weekly spreads, mostly so she can test them out and see which ones work and fit her needs better. I personally just need space to write about 3 to 4 bullet points in any given day, including the weekend days. So the Amajiki or Todoroki spreads would probably work the best for me. For the final page, I settled on a little Retsuko from Aggretsuko waving, kind of to say hi and end my set of spreads so she can start her own. Last thing, let's talk about the cover. So I ended up drawing one of the cute little platelets from Cells at Work, an adorable yet educational anime. The flag she's holding is telling her to be productive, and hopefully it'll be a motivation to pick up the journal and stay organized. I had no idea how to put anything on leather. I'd never done that before, so I just used some cheap lamination paper to cover the drawing and keep it from bending or tearing. I was going to use Mod Podge to secure it, but apparently the laminate stuck better than a sticker. A little bubble happened on her flag that I couldn't fix, but I still think it looks pretty good. After securing her off camera, I went back and added some washi tape extras for the spreads where I felt something was missing. So now for the final flip through. As we go, I have to mention that I'm pretty impressed with this bullet journal. It was $5. I'll post the link in the description because if you're looking for a budget buy for your first one, this is a good one I picked out on accident. It held my Gansei Tombi watercolors and my thick dark Prismacolor brush pen and didn't bleed at all. The only thing that did was my alcohol markers. The paper itself is thin enough that you can see the behind image a tiny bit, but this is a great way to go for a newbie. I would not have splurged for the Archer and Olive if they had this one in a bigger B5 size, but you'll see that unboxing video soon enough. I'm honestly glad I made this journal for her. It was a great way to have fun making something for someone while still getting the chance to reflect on what I would need for my own bullet journal. So if you're watching this, Corinna, Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy the fruits of my labor and end up using it. I hope it was helpful in setting up your own, and this is my very first attempt. If you want me to make a step-by-step video on monthly setups, future logs, etc., let me know in the comments below. I do read them all, and I would love to hear from you. So see you next time, my lovelies. Bye!